All right, Tolu. All right, so let's bring in Opeyemi Agbaje, who joins us now. Mr. Agbaje, what's the reaction to the suspension of the CBN governor? Did you see this coming?
I don't think the suspension was completely unexpected. I think I've been hearing your other panelists talking about the CBN Naira redesign fiasco, but that was merely the final nail, I think, in the coffin of the now suspended CBN governor. You recall that we've had many unprecedented things. This was the CBN governor who collected the nomination form to run for presidency as a member of the ruling APC while sitting in the central bank. That was morally wrong. It was possibly legally wrong as well, given the legal specifications about the autonomy of the CBN and its non-participation in politics. You recall that we've had a very underwhelming economic performance over the period of the governor's time in office. We have the issue of the 23 trillion naira ways and means, which is an obvious illegality given the prescriptions in the CBN Act and other laws about the management of ways and means. So I think that there were many reasons for which it was expected that President Tinubu would take action. And he hinted at it in his inaugural address. He spoke about house cleaning, thorough house cleaning at the central bank. I think watchers of the Nigerian economy, including international partners and trading partners and international financial institutions, would be probably be relieved that some action is being taken around the central bank.
Well, Mr. Agbaje, where do you see this investigation lead us?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Where do you see this ongoing investigation and the reforms in the financial sector lead Nigeria?
Well, I think that my expectation would be that the new president would like to start with a new slate at the central bank. I suspect that is in the interest of the Nigerian economy and confidence of market watchers, domestic and international. I think also that all of those issues that I mentioned, you would need some reckoning on them. What was the motivation for the Naira redesign? How much was spent on it? What's the status of that? The ways and means issue, what is the motivation for that? Like I said, some of these things involve elements of illegality. But most importantly, the policy posture, the policy stance of the central bank, the lack of transparency around FX allocations and who benefits and who doesn't benefit, and all of those. So I see sooner than later a new governor at the central bank, a new, more market-friendly, more rational market direction from the central bank. And I suspect that all of those, if they do happen, will be positive for the Nigerian economy.
Well, as it is, the CBN, now suspended CBN governor has been asked to hand over to his deputy governor, who is expected to act as the central bank governor pending the conclusion of investigation and the reforms. How cooperative do you see other members of the team who are working, in the CBN in all of this?
Well, I'm sure that nobody wants to go out of the central bank if it appears that the suspended governor is on his way out. I suspect that many of the people left will fall into line. But I think that what the new president should do is an unbiased investigation. And if there are any other members of the team who may be implicated in some of these events, then like what President Bola Tinubu said was that he wanted to do a thorough house cleaning. And it is possible that a thorough house cleaning may go beyond the governor. It is possible that it is restricted to a few people, but let the facts and the investigation lead us, rather than us analysts and observers making presumptuous statement. So I think the right thing has been done. You suspend the gentleman on the seat. You carry out a proper investigation. But with regard to the suspended governor, I suspect that the space for maneuver is limited. But we are not in a position to speak with definitiveness about the other members of the team.
Indeed, Nigerians and friends of the country are looking out for what becomes of this investigation, as you have said, thorough house cleaning. And people would really like to see how thorough the cleaning is. Mr. Agbaje.
Well, to be frank, I think President Tinubu has, personally, I have a lot of high expectations for Nigeria's presidency, especially in terms of economic policy. I think President Tinubu in 10 days has exceeded my expectations. I'm very proud and happy to say that. And I suspect that this will be no different. I think the investigation should be thorough. I think the facts should be unearthed. There should be accountability. So this is not just a case of you just go home and sin no more. There should be accountability where there are established infractions. And then we should be able to restore the credibility, the institutional credibility of our central bank, which has been significantly damaged, in my opinion, especially with the Naira redesign. But that was just, like I said earlier, the final straw. We've had bans and we've had all sorts of policies that we have come to describe as unconventional. And we were beginning to normalize, I think, deviancy at the central bank, which is a tragedy for a country that seeks development. So I'm hopeful, and I urge most Nigerians to be hopeful as well.
All right, let's get back to that issue of Naira redesign policy. Just like our business editor Tolulope Ogunjobi mentioned earlier, it's had huge impacts on the economy. Market men and women, corporates, workers, I mean, everyone just really had some level of complaints. But then it was being justified on the fact that it was to curb corruption and it was to tackle insecurity. The fact that kidnappers would no longer be able to request huge sums because those sums were no longer with people. At the inception of that policy, what was your reaction? What was your understanding of the issue back then?
In fact, I like the question that you just had. Immediately the policy was released, I released a presentation. I looked at all the plausible justifications for the policy. And this is a public document that some people will probably have over the internet. And I came to the conclusion that you could not justify the policy on economic or macroeconomic policy and all of those. I could only suggest anti-corruption, security, and political motives that could form the basis of the policy. But even if you could justify them on those, even if you saw those three motives, it was clear, even at that time, relative to the experiences in other economies, that it would be impossible to accomplish the currency redesign for a country the size and limited banking penetration of Nigeria. It was clear, even from day one, that it was going to be impossible to accomplish a transfer of currency, change of redesign of currency, exchange of notes across Nigeria within the time frame that the governor was proposing. That policy, in my view, was not just misguided, but it descended into the level of being a wicked assault on the finances, on the psyche, on the economy of our people. Our people suffered. Middle class people suffered. I suffered. We all suffered. It was inexplicable that in the 21st century, a central bank in a country the size and sophistication of Nigeria would treat Nigerians with that level of arrogance and ignorance because they were completely unfounded in their policy position. So it's now, today, it's an unmitigated tragedy. Why? We had endured all that suffering. We don't see the notes. It seems they've disappeared. It seems that even the political objectives that probably informed the policy failed. We've seen no benefit from the policy in terms of security or anti-corruption. There's been absolutely zero benefit to the Nigerian economy and to the Nigerian people from that policy. On the other hand, there was serious pain. It threatened even our elections and the stability of our country. So, for me, that was merely the final nail in the coffin of an errant, I'm sorry to say, central banking institution. I believe that we have not fully recovered from that. Even now, confidence in the banking sector, confidence in the credibility and the integrity of the central bank, all of those things, our national economic confidence have all suffered. I'm sure that with this move, many people, observers, will be satisfied that perhaps policy is returning to rationality, to sensible underpinnings in the Nigerian economy. And that's a great thing. And I wait to see what will happen after the investigation. If, for instance, we're going to have a new central bank governor, it had better be a professional who is calm, who understands economics, who is disciplined, and who does not make some of those blunders that we've seen in the last few years.
All right, we know many have said that by the time we're going to have a new central bank governor, it shouldn't be a bank MD. It should rather be an economist, someone who understands how these things are actually done. But then finally, before we let you go, you know, in the thick of the Naira redesign policy, many wondered the level of authority and audacity with which the central bank governor operated. Would it be correct to say he enjoyed the support of President Buhari back then?
That's the elephant in the room. Obviously, he did. It remains to be seen who was leading who. Was he leading the president, or was the president directing him? But it is clear that they were united on the central Naira redesign issue. They were united on the FX mismanagement policy. They were united on the bans of several items. They were united on the big issues. However, whether President Buhari's unity with Mr. Emefiele was informed by a correct understanding of policy is a separate question. But
all right,
the technical person, the technocrat who our laws gave autonomy on monetary policy, was the central bank governor. And therefore, he's the one that we will hold responsible, at least for failed policy. We can hold President Buhari responsible for failed leadership where there are instances of that. But in this case, I think the technocrat, the banker, the person who was presumed to understand economics, the person who was supposed to run corporate governance in the central bank, the person who was supposed to offer calm, matured policy leadership in our economy was the suspended governor.
All right.
I think many will say about time.
Mr. Agbaje, we need to end the conversation here. Strategist, Business Advisory, Opeyemi Agbaje, thank you for talking to us on TVC News at 10.
Thank you.